Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to welcome you at our webinar organized together with SolarEdge. The main topic is hybrid inverters and self-consumption solutions. Let me remind you that the webinar is held in English language, but it will be simultaneously translated to Ukrainian. How to switch to Ukrainian translation, we will give you instruction in the later slide. So first of all, let me introduce you our speaker. This is Jason Kirich, Technical Marketing Manager from SolarEdge, and I'm sure for those who already working with SolarEdge for quite a long time, you already know our speaker because he held multiple webinars, and particularly for Ukraine as well. And I'm presenting Solarity, specifically Ukrainian branch. So in case you will have any questions regarding SolarEdge after the webinar, you can always contact me or any of my colleagues in Ukraine. So to switch into Ukrainian translation, you should select the globe on your tab in Zoom interface and click on Russian channel. Please don't be confused that it's Russian. Actually, on the Russian channel, you will have Ukrainian translation that will be done by our colleague Konstantin Litvak, who presents in Polish branch of Solarity, but he is actually Ukrainian and also a very good translator. So we know that we have multiple participants on this webinar and they present in different countries. So we will be happy to know from which country you actually are. So we organize a small poll. The question is where you from, and you have a couple of options. So please vote now. It will be useful for us to know from which country are you. Okay, I see multiple participants from Ukraine, also some from Balkans countries. Well, Baltics also here. 4 participants from other countries. So it's nice to know that also some countries outside of our current markets are there. So nice, 70% of participants from Ukraine. Let's go further. So now I would like to share with you the agenda for today's webinar. As you probably mentioned during the invitation, webinar is planned for 2 hours maximum. It will be pretty intense, and we hope that you will get much of new and useful information. So now we will start short presentation about Solarity as a distributor of PV equipment and particularly SolarEdge. Secondly, we will go to the main topic of our webinar. It's hybrid inverters and self-consumption solutions. And at the end of our webinar, we will have a Q&A part where you will be able to ask the questions that will pop up during the webinar or any other question that you had before the webinar. And our speaker, Jason, will be happy to answer all your questions. And just small note, please ask your question in the Q&A window, not the chat, because in the chat we will not be able to translate them. So please pay attention to this. As I mentioned, we will start with short presentation of Solarity. So we are a global PV distributor. Some short numbers. So we started in 2009 as EPC company in Czech Republic. In 2011, we changed the business strategy and actually become a distributor. And now in actually in 2020, we were recognized as international distributor because we actually present in multiple markets. Some further numbers are about our volumes actually and current markets. So we supply 250 megawatt yearly throughout the globe. We are active in more than 30 countries, and in our company is really international, and we present in more than 10 nations within one company. What is actually our focus? We are working with many top manufacturers in the world. We have very good relations with them, and our focus is to deliver the best quality product to installers, actually to our customers. So we will care about logistics, about supplies, and our main goal is to deliver in time and the needed product for your project. Some tools that we have for our customers. We can provide local support, which means that we have local offices in all our, not in all, but actually in majority of our active markets. We also organize training, for example, the one like we do now. We help our customers with logistics. Also, we have some unique partner program for most of our trusted customers. We also provide technical know-how and technical advices for customers. And also we have financial program for middle scale and big projects. Here we would like to share some information about our active markets. So as you see, we have branches in Poland, Ukraine, also Jordan in the Middle East, United Arab Emirates, and also recently we started a branch in Morocco. Besides, we had branches long time ago in Slovakia and Hungary, which are also our main markets. Beside this, we are also active in Scandinavia, Baltics, Balkan countries, and also all the Middle East. So about European activity, we have more than 5 megawatt available in our warehouse. It's actually our goal to have this available and supply our customers as soon as possible. In European offices, there are more than 60 employees, and last 12 months, we supplied more than 150 megawatts throughout the Europe. What are actually our mission and what we are trying to bring to our customers? Of course, it's the best quality. We focus our targets mainly on the quality because we believe that it can help to build a high quality and good project that will last for a couple of decades. What actually good quality can bring to the customers? It can give several benefits. First of all, it's easy to sell because quality is the best price, I would say. Secondly, it's easy to install. And last but not the least is proven performance, because the manufacturers that we are working with, they rely on high-tech research department. They rely on multiple testing and its quality proven by multiple years in multiple countries in the world. Here you can see the main brands that we are working with. So as you can note, regarding modules, all the brands are from tier 1 list. Then going to inverters, it's also top brands. Together with SolarEdge, we have Fronius, SMA, Huawei, and Solax. And of course, we can supply all the equipment for PV installation, including mounting system from K2, cables from German brand KBE, and also storage systems from BAD. Uh, Now we go to our main focus in Ukraine, I would say. It's residential market. So for residential market, we can offer modules, inverters, energy storage systems, also EV charging solutions, which becoming very popular recently. Besides mounting systems and also different accessories, for example, like weather sensors or maybe some heating sensors, heating equipment for water, and many others, which you can easily find out on our website or by contacting any of our employees. For project is actually the same. We can supply all the needed equipment. Just one difference between projects and residential market is, of course, that project needs much more precise planning, and it takes into account um, couple of important factors. For example, like supply time, and it also should be discussed in advance. So here you can find out the website, the email address for contacting either European office of Solarity or Ukrainian office. So you can know this email address for you, and in case of any further questions or sales requests, please contact us and we will be happy to give you needed information. Well, we are finishing the first part, and at the end, we would like to make one more poll to understand how much experience you already had with SolarEdge. So, one more poll. Give me a second, please. Okay, seems like we have some problem with the poll that we wanted to hold. Yeah, so now we see it. So the question is, what is your experience with SolarEdge products? And we have three options. I have never bought SolarEdge. I have already purchased SolarEdge, and I'm regularly purchasing SolarEdge. So this information will be useful for us to understand what kind of customers and installers do we have here. So nice to see that almost the half of participants regularly purchasing SolarEdge. That's very good to know. Okay, nice. So half of participants have already installed SolarEdge. That's nice to see. Okay, so now we finished the first part. So thank you for your attention. And now I will pass the torch to Jason with his presentation. So Jason, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to share my screen. Hopefully it should go smoothly. There we are. Okay, so a little bit different in the picture, I know. I'd like to say it's recent, but it's not that recent. We do need to have some better pictures taken. So this is me. I've worked for SolarEdge for nearly 6 years now. It'll be 6 years in July. I cover the United Kingdom, Ireland, Scandinavia, the Nordics, the Baltics, and the rest of Europe. And I help out Petra with his regions that he has, as well as some of the other regions. We have several technical marketing managers in Europe and like Netherlands, France, Germany. Um, what happens is we support these countries remotely until the market expands, and then we employ local people. So I'm not sure how much longer you'll get to hear me. Hopefully, we'll have employees in your regions very soon. So, and if you are interested in working for SolarEdge, then please contact SolarEdge and say so. You never know, you might be lucky. So let's get on with the presentation then. Oh, by the way, this is my email here and my phone number. Feel free to write these down and please message me or email me should you have any questions. So I just want to start for the ones that are new to SolarEdge and for the ones that have installing and just to recap on some of the safety features and benefits of the SolarEdge. The first one is the Safe DC. We're the only manufacturer that has this Safe DC. And what this does is for commercial, it will reduce your string voltage down to below 50 volts. For residential, below 25 volts. So what this means is that if you turn the inverter off, if you turn the DC isolator off, if you unplug the DC cable while it's still producing, it will reduce to 50 volts and 25 volts. You can also go to the roof. You can start removing modules because, again, you'll have 1 volt at each module with the optimizer. So it's very safe for maintenance, very safe to install, and it has these safety features that you can literally just turn the inverter off and you will have 50 volts or 25 volts at the on the string at the inverter and on the roof. Now that works hand in glove with the arc fault circuit interruption. Without a means of isolating the voltage and current in the string, arc fault circuit interruption only does one thing. It detects an arc and it tries to stop it, and it will stop it at the inverter, absolutely. But we are able to stop it at the module, which means that as soon as we detect an arc, the inverter then goes into safe DC mode. The string voltage reduces, the string current reduces, and we end up with 1 volt per optimizer and also zero current between the module and the optimizer. So we have the ability to basically reduce the arc. So we detect an arc instantaneously, we can turn off the inverter production, we can stop the voltage, and we can stop the current flowing in that circuit. So it's a very good safety feature. The other thing is the panel level monitoring. You can see exactly what each module is doing. That reports in 5-minute increments, and it's shown in 15 minutes on the layout, but you can see 5-minute intervals in the analysis charts. Very easy to trace, as long as you've recorded the correct barcode in the correct physical location. You'll be able to find exactly where the module is, where the optimizer is. You'll be able to see shading, soiling. You'll be able to know when to change my, when to clean my modules as such, all that sorts of stuff. The next thing is we have a minimum of 6, 8, or 14 MPPTs per string. That's the minimum. That's not the maximum. That's the minimum. So even for the small residential single phase, we have 6 optimizers in a string, and then we have the 3-phase residential as well, as you know, and then going up to 3-phase commercial. So you still have a minimum of 6, 8, and 14. So it's very good. The adaptability. So, SolarEdge, we are making our own storage, we have our own EV, and we have our own smart energy. It's all under one umbrella. If you have an issue with the storage, you have an issue with the EV or the smart energy or the inverter or the optimizer, it's all the same number that you ring. So there's no battle between different manufacturers saying, "Oh yes, but our product works fine." It's their product that doesn't work. It's all under one roof. It's all under one umbrella. And this is from 2016 onwards, just a firmware update or maybe a communication board change. So nothing outrageous. You can have stuff that's been there since 2012, and with a few firmware updates and a communication board, you can have the current products working on there. Remote support, 95% of all issues we can resolve remotely. So it's very important that you get the inverter online. We can dial into the inverter, we can check all the settings and so on. And again, it's one point of contact for all our products. So if you do have an issue, it's very easy just to contact SolarEdge and we'll be able to sort it for you. Um, just to recap on the benefits. So there's more energy because of module mismatch. As you know, every module has a plus or minus of 3%. Um, this basically means that you are going to run at the lowest producing module, but with SolarEdge, it allows MPPT at each module. This means that each module will basically be doing as much as it possibly can. It'll be producing everything that it possibly can, and it's not held back by its neighbor. You've got full visibility. You can see exactly what's going on. You can see the current, the module voltage. You can see the optimizer voltage. You can see the power. All of this is recorded forever, going back to the first day you installed it up until the current day. And this is some of the installations is nearly 9 to 10 years old now, with still data from day one. There's no charge for that. That's completely free for the life of the installation. Um, we've then got the enhanced safety. As we said, we've got the safety C and the arc fault circuit interruption. They work hand in glove. Very important you understand how important it is uh, to turn off the voltage, to remove the current from the circuit, from the string, if you have an arc. As I said, safety C is basically what SolarEdge have. We're the only one that have it. And that turns off the voltage, turns off the current, and will hopefully remove the arc from the circuit and stop the potential of fire. And all that's done automatically as well. And then you've got the maximum space utilization. You can do east, west, north, south. You can do anything you want with them because they all have their own optimizers. Just put it into the design and you'll see what comes out. And just a little bit of joke here, shading. It's not just building or trees. Shading covers all of these. So shading is clouds. Even most people say, "Oh, but I don't have any shading issues, so I don't need solar edge." So okay, so you don't have any clouds, you don't have any snow, ice, or soiling. You don't get any bird mess, no leaves. You haven't got module mismatch. You've got none of this. And of course, people say, yes, I have this. And that's the reason why you want SolarEdge, to give you just that little bit more performance. It also helps with bypass diode failure. The optimizer can go down to as low as 8 volts. So it would still produce on one bypass diode, where, as far as I understand, other products turn off at 2 bypass diodes. So you'll still get that extra bit of production. And don't forget the MPPT at every module. You see on here, the dog is quite happy lying on a nice warm module. Yeah, it happens. So SolarEdge, we've been going since 2006. We've been on floated as a company since 2012. And these little red dots are basically just some information for you. We've got presence in 28 countries. We have regional service centers, as you can see where the red dots are. We've got systems in 133 countries in the world. And this is probably a little bit out of date. We've got a lot more now, but it's difficult to keep up with the information in the right slides. And R&D manufacturing capabilities, as Vlad mentioned before, he works with manufacturers that have good R&D and good research and good reliability of their products. As you can see on here, we have R&D centers in Israel, Bulgaria, California, Korea, and Italy. And we manufacture in China, Vietnam, Hungary, Korea, and Israel. So we are building, or we have opened our own factory in Israel. That was the Seller One, and we are producing. We will be producing from the Seller Two very shortly. So yes, SolarEdge is a global brand. It's not just something that's in Europe. It's also in North America. It's also in Australia. It's all over basically. So let's go for the bits that you actually come for. There we go. Oops, giving it away. So these are the products we've got. Some of them you'll be very familiar with. Some of them will look slightly different to your region. The main one that's going to look slightly different is the Synergy. I'm going to tell you a little secret here. This is changing, and look out for a presentation about the Synergy, because that's going to happen in the next few weeks. We've got the 33 up here. The 33 kilowatt inverter here, which is the highest low voltage, and 40 is the highest medium voltage we do. And then we've got the three-phase residential storage here in 5, 7, 8, 10. That's this one here. Single phase over here, EV, single phase inverter. Optimizers up here, residential generally to this wattage, and commercial up to this wattage. All the information's on the data sheets. All that's available on the website. Just simply go to product, hover over product, and then go to whatever you want, be it optimizer, inverter. You'll be able to find it. Then we've got the meter. The meter I'm going to show you today is slightly different. This is the UK version here. We have a different rule for grid exportation. That's why we need a slightly different product. We've got the firefighter gateway here, and the commercial gateway, and then the environmental sensors, which Vlad said that he also sells here as accessories. Then smart energy that we're going to look at today. Built-in communications, as you can see on here, cellular plug-in, and surge protection devices. We're going to touch on surge protection devices as well. But very quickly, we're just going to go on to a couple of things that are new. This is brand new. If you're interested in this, I will, well, I know you're interested in this, but I will send you the link via Vlad of how to do the training. And basically, you will be able to, as it says here, remote firmware update and certification from your monitoring. So with this, you can update the firmware on the inverter remotely. So you don't have to go to site anymore. You can do it from the comfort of your office. It saves time. It's available for both the setup inverter and for the screenless inverters. And it's very simple. You access the site admin tab, you go to remote settings, and then you update the firmware for each inverter on site. It will automatically select the firmware for you. So you don't have to worry about getting the wrong firmware. It will do it for you automatically. That will then verify it and give you the okay that everything's gone well, or maybe might be an issue with communication and you might have to try again. Then you can track the firmware updates on here and see how well they're doing, if they've done, if they've finished. And then the last one, it will just update you to say it was a success. So all you need to do is simply, as it says on here, the certification process. is you need to go to the online courses. I'll send you the link. So it says on here, you'll receive a link after the webinar. I'll make sure you have this link. You go to the link, you then register for the training. As you can see on here, hopefully some of you be familiar with this layout, as this is the layout for the Edge Academy or the Learning Center. Um, when you get to this stage, you'll probably see over here it will say enroll. So just look for where it says enroll, and then click on remote firmware update training. You do the training, and then you have a little quiz. You have to get 100%, and you can have as many goes as you want. It's just to make sure that you've retained the information and you know what to do, basically. Then when you've completed the training, we then activate your account. That can take up to 24 to 48 hours. And then that will give you the access to update the inverters on remotely. So this leads nicely on to the Edge Academy. So the future learning journey. So when I joined SolarEdge, we used to do advanced trainings, and they were standing in front of people for maybe 8 hours, making a presentation by PowerPoint as exciting as possible for people, which is very difficult because you can only last so long without a break. With PowerPoint, you get death by PowerPoint is the saying. So we've come along, we've looked at all the learning that we can do, and this is what we've come up with. So we've come up with the training events, the hybrid learning, so you can learn online. You've got videos, all kinds of things to help you to benefit your understanding of the products. So we've got the Edge Academy, we've got the benefits, the learning path, and the future learning solution. So we're going to look at these very quickly. So onboarding is basically joining. So we've got the Edge Academy, we've got the Learning Center, and we've got YouTube. So this is the Edge Academy, this is the Learning Center, and this is YouTube. And you can access all of these via the website. You don't need to pay for these. These are all completely free. Simply go to a website. You may be asked to log in, and to do that, you just supply your company details. You'll use your email and you'll get a password, and then you should be able to access this. And then what we do is we've got the several trainings. So we've got the pre and after installation. So we've got the Edge Academy, the Learning Center, and YouTube. So you can type into YouTube now. You can not now because hopefully you'll be listening to me, but you can go to SolarEdge YouTube, then SolarEdge, and you'll see the SolarEdge channel with all the videos on there. And hopefully some of them will be useful to you. Some of them may be not useful because I imagine you're very skillful with the SolarEdge installations you're doing. But as I say to people, everything changes. When I joined SolarEdge in 2015, we had residential inverters, three-phase inverters, and we had Wi-Fi. And now we have the verge of our own battery, smart energy, residential storage, three phase and single phase. So everything changes so quickly. The GSM, all the communication has changed with the setup. So please try and keep yourself abreast of all the changes, all the knowledge. And it's very easy to do that with the upskilling. So basically, just go to the Learning Center and just see a little video, maybe 2-minute video at the most, on what's happening, about the new modules, about the new optimizers, just to keep yourself up to date. Then the lifelong learning process is basically from day one, you're still learning. We're all learning, and nobody has attained all the knowledge in the world. We are still learning as we go. And what we've got here is the fundamental training. This is available now. This is a very short course, about an hour and a half. The expert training we've just piloted, and that will be available at the end of June. And that's roughly 3 hours. And then the master training, which is a hands-on training, which will basically come and see you and do some training with you. and then you can get your different badges. So once you've completed this, you can use this image on your letterhead, on your website, on your business cards. You can use it wherever you want. You can say that I am a trained SolarEdge installer. I can install SolarEdge. And the same for this one here, the expert. And then the master will be the final one, and that will be everything. You will know absolutely everything, almost enough to work at SolarEdge, information wise. And it's very simple to get on. As I said, you go to the website, you go to login, and then this one you select Edge Academy, you sign in, and you can see courses, course catalog, and you can resume your courses. So this is your learning path. So for different things, we would expect the residential installer to do these two, the commercial installer to do these three, and your sales training, your sales rep to do these as well. Now we are developing the sales courses as well. It's very important that everybody understands the concepts and benefits of SolarEdge, not just the installer, how to install the product. It's also the people selling it. So they have a good understanding of what the product does. We'll also be able to do CPD points, which is something that we should all do. And I know at SolarEdge we have to have so many points per year of development, of our own development, our own studies, and what we've done. So we'll be giving points for these as well, and you'll be able to use these as part of your CPD. So the hybrid learning. It's self-paced. You're in charge of how quickly you learn. We've got videos, you have a test, we've got Zoom webinars, we have some recorded webinars, some Zoom sessions, face-to-face training, and then the in-class hands training. This is the very last one. This is the master training. And not everybody will want to do this. It's only your installing electricians that will really want to do this one. The people on the roof, the people on the inverters, and people setting up the communication. And this is how we're going to do it. We're going to come to you, or you can come to us when we have a venue, and basically we'll have a box similar to this with an inverter in here, some a meter and some smart devices, and then we'll basically say to you, okay, let's connect this up. Off you go, see if you get it right, and we'll help you. What are you having trouble with? There'll be other boxes with optimizers in, and GSM and things like that. And it's just really, this is the last bit. This is everything you will need to know. And we will help you with every single thing. So it might just be that you might not be connecting the BAG connections correctly into here, and we'll say, okay, just do this. Use this cable. You don't need to have a big cable because it's only 7 volts. Little things like that, little tips. And the main benefit to you, you can have it whenever you want. It's interactive. You can basically see how well you've done. You get the recognition as well. And for SolarEdge, the main thing, motivation behind this is that you understand what you need to do to install it, and it cuts down your time on the phone to support questioning. Do I need to do this? Do I need to do that? And also it cuts down any issues as well. When you think something isn't working correctly and you get upset, you get frustrated, and it solves all of this. So we're trying to educate everybody as best as we can to avoid this bit here. So avoid the installation faults from day one. What the future holds? Well, this is the Learning Center. This is already there. Again, you can go to our website, just basically above this, and you click on education, and then Learning Center pops up, and you've got all these videos. You've got regional training events as well, additional resources. Everything is there for you. Okay. I'm just seeing what. Here we go. I think we'll do a poll because we can do that now. So let me just launch this poll. And the question of this poll is, how do you find out product information? So it's multiple choice. You can have more than one. Do you go on YouTube? Do you go to the SolarEdge support, the SolarEdge website, or do you contact your sales representative? So it's looking very good. We're using all kinds of different ones here. That's very good. And the main one is the website. That's very good. Let's wait for a few more people to vote. Okay, that's excellent. So the main one was the SolarEdge website, and that's very interesting. And I hope that if you have any comments, that you will email me or email me via Solarity and let me know. Just if you do have any comments, any problems, any things that you would like on there, please let me know. And especially if the translation is incorrect, I do believe there is a version in Ukraine on the website, but please just let me know if it's not. Okay. Let's get rid of this. So next slide then. So now we're on to the artful circuit interruption. I did touch on this before. There's only a couple of slides, but basically all our inverters going back to 2016 have this ability, and that's to do with the communication board. So you can update an older version, put a new communication board on, and it will do the same thing. Basically, it detects an arc, and once it detects an arc, no matter how big or how small, it will then turn the inverter off. Now, some of you, the ones that have installed SolarEdge before, may have experienced when they had the polarity wrong on the inverter. And if you get the polarity wrong on the inverter will not start no matter what you do to it. And basically, that's one of the safety checks. Likewise, if you try and get the inverter to pair or to produce, and you have a loose connection in the DC isolator, and maybe the MC4 isn't plugged in enough, that again is one of the safety features. And that's very, very similar to the arc fault circuit detection. It detects that there's an arc, a jump, it measures the current in the circuit. That's one of the main ways that SolarEdge works, is the inverter tells the optimizers what current to produce. That then keeps in line with the 750 volts for commercial, or 380 for residential. So it uses the current as the measuring device. It knows exactly what current should be going around because it tells the optimizers what current it should be. Um, and this is how accurate it is. And once we know that there's an arc, it then turns off, and then you use the safe DC comes in automatically, and basically that lowers the voltage down to 50 volts or 25 volts, and the current down to 300 milliamps. Okay, so very, very safe. Very easy to install, or sorry, not install, to activate, I should say. You go to the commissioning screen in setup. If you're not familiar with that, we'll look at that later on. Go to the commissioning screen, go to maintenance, the screen pops up. You then have arc fault circuit interrupter, it's disabled. You click enable, comes up enable, and it's done. And you'll be able to see this in the status screen as well. So this is setup. Prior to, I'd say 2019, we had LCD screens on our inverters, and we've changed them to the setup. So there's no screens on the newer inverter, and we have to have a means of communicating to this inverter to set it up, and that is how we use the Set app. This again is free. You simply go to your iStore or Google Play and download Setup. There's a couple of other apps on there. There's the My SolarEdge app and the monitoring app as well. But basically, it allows you to scan the QR code on the size inverter. You can see on here where the QR codes are here. It allows you to scan them and gain information. Now, we've got some other features on here as well. We've got a support feature, which I don't cover in the slide, but I will tell you, that allows you to go to knowledge base, allows you to open cases, allows you to see your cases all via the setup while you're on site. So if you do have an issue, you can create a case literally standing in front of that inverter. So you go to the App Store or the Google Play to download it. As soon as you download, you log in with your email and password. If you don't have an email and password with SolarEdge, you can do it this way. You then upgrade and activate the inverter. You set the country language, set the country and language, and you pair the power optimizers and then configure the system. That's pretty much it. These are the apps you've got. SolarEdge monitoring. You've got the setup one, you've got the site mapper, and we've got a PV self-consumption one here. This is the setup one. Looks like a little wheel. And once you've done it, you download it and you get this screen here, welcome. Then you get this screen here where you need to put in your email address or password. And if it says, oh, you haven't got an account, sign up here, just put your details in. If you are standing in front of the inverter, whoops, if you're standing in front of the inverter and you have the serial number, you can put that serial number in here. Okay. If not, and you also need to check on I request access to the monitoring platform. So as soon as you tick that, you have to put the serial number in and a distributor where you got it from. If it's not a new inverter, if it's one that's already been there, then just leave this blank and you'll be able to use it. So once you've done it, you then press start and you get this QR screen here, or basically a screen. You hover over the QR code. You can use your torch as well on your phone to illuminate the QR code. And you can also take a picture of this. So you could take a picture of the QR code and then you'll be able to refer to that later on. So you don't need to literally go to the side inverter to get that picture every time. You can just either enter the serial number or it will say use picture. You click on use picture, your pictures come up, you just tap on that one and it uses the QR code. The switch is slightly different from the LCD. The LCD, we only had an on and an off. Uh, with the new ones, we have this P. Now, if you move the switch to P for 2 seconds, as it says here, 2 seconds, you'll activate the setup handshake protocol. If you move it to P for more than 5 seconds, you'll start the pairing. Okay, so you can still do pairing the old-fashioned way by using the switch. So what it does is it uploads the firmware. So once it's finished uploading the firmware, you can walk away from the inverter. You can go and do something else. You don't have to stand in front of it. You can just upload the firmware and you can go away and do something else. You have to leave your phone there just for updating as such. And once it's on the inverter and it's doing the update complete, when it gets to this stage, then you can go into the commissioning. And you've got all the settings on here. Exactly the same settings you used to have on the LCD, but they're laid out a little bit easier. We only had 160 characters on the LCD screen, so we're very limited to what information we could show. As you can see on here, we've got everything in one screen. So we've got the country language, pairing, the monitoring communication. The monitoring communication is from the inverter via the internet to the outside world. Site communication is to other inverters, is to meters, is to storage devices, that sort of stuff. Power control, so you can set the export limit, you can set the production of the inverter, grid protection, so you can click on here and you can actually see the grid settings. Now, there are ways that you can change your grid settings. So you might be selecting the country Ukraine, and it might not give you the tolerance you want for your grid protection. You can also change these settings via the monitoring. So you have to contact support, and support will allow you access to do it. Once you've got that, you can then set the maximum minimum frequency and voltage for your inverter to work on. So if you've got a very remote area and the inverter keeps islanding, you'll be able to set these settings yourself. Then we've got device manager. This is your smart energy maintenance. This allows you to look for um, isolation faults and optimizers reporting in. And then information is just about the status, what's going on. So country commissioning, basically you select your country, you select your language. Pairing, you select pairing, start pairing. It then starts pairing, goes through some things. Will then say, gives you a countdown, pairing complete. And then it says grid parameters checking, grid parameters check, and then it starts producing. For RS485 communication, you would go to site communication, and you've got on here Ethernet, Wi-Fi, RS485 1 and 2, and then you've got your GP 10, which is basically controlling the inverter remotely, and then you've got your Modbus TCP port also for using Sunspec protocol and things like that. And you just choose follower or leader, or you choose you want a meter. This particular picture we're showing how we would do the follower detect, and then you get your slaves here. They would pop up. Status. You click on status and you get an overall picture, and you just basically scroll the phone up and you get all the information about the inverters, what they're doing. This is arc circuit interruptions showing auto reconnect here. You've got SOK, means you've got communication. You've got 30 of 30 optimizers. You've got what else have we got? Energy this month. You've got the information about the meters. So it's all on here. Literally, you can just scroll up. And don't forget that the beauty of it is you can take screenshots to prove that you have SOK, to prove that you've got everything set up correctly. Power control, as it says, allows you to do reactive control, use the RRCR, which allows you to control the inverter remotely, and things like that. So once you've downloaded it, you stand next to an inverter, and then you can just see all the information on here. You've got maintenance on here, logistics, you've got firmware upgrade. You can upgrade the firmware by this way, or you can do it by the monitoring as I've shown you. And the information just gives you the different versions, the DSPs. You've got the LED lights underneath as well. Red obviously is an error. Solid green means it's producing. Flashing green means the AC is on but not producing. And solid blue is communication. And they are available here to look on the LED. So just type in solaredge.com and then LEDs. And we'll look at the communication board. So this is the new communication board, and we'll start from 12 o'clock. This is where you would put the GSM or the smart energy plug-in in this area here. GSM is cellular, depending if we're in North America or not. Then we have the Wi-Fi connector. So if you want to use Wi-Fi to connect, simply connect the antenna onto here. You don't need to have an antenna when you're doing the setup process. You'll be able to get at least 6 meters range from the inverter as it is. This is your power reduction interface that works with the RRCR that allows you to configure the inverter, sorry, not configure, control the inverter remotely from 100% down to 60%, down to 30% or to 0. And then we have the two RS485s, 1 and 2. We have dip switches here for end of line resistance for these. The Ethernet port on here. Oh, sorry. The USB port on here where you can charge your phone, and the Ethernet port here. These two plugins here, they are for the switch and for the LED indicator. So 3-phase SolarEdge inverter. Let's have a look at it. This is the one that you're interested in. This here is a normal inverter up to this point here. and then we have the DC-DC conversion in here. So there's no extra box. You literally need this inverter, this meter, and the choice of batteries. There are other batteries available. I've actually seen one that works on a saltwater battery with our inverter. So the data sheet is out there that you can see what you need to match, basically battery wise, to be compatible with the inverter. It's available in 5, 7, 8, and 10. Now, obviously, if you're doing this as an AC coupled, you don't want an inverter bigger than a 5 kilowatt, because that's the maximum that the battery will discharge and charge at. So an AC coupled inverter bigger than 5 kilowatt is not really going to help you at all. The warranty is 12 years, and these are the batteries available. So the biggest one at the moment is the 24 kilowatt one. We are working on 2 batteries. I believe we can support 2 batteries now as well. So all this is it's pretty good. Here we go. So 2 batteries, yeah, we should be supporting that. It's an old slide, so yes, we can support that. You can have up to 3 inverters with storage and the same one, plus other inverters as well. And you can retrofit as well. So you can have the AC coupled. So all that's available. And there's an application note on here as well, which I will send you. This is what it looks like. Here's your PV array, your optimizer, your inverter with battery technology interface in the bottom. There's your battery. Here's your energy meter. So you literally can have any battery as long as it meets the specifications. That plugs in and away we go. The maximum distance is 5 meters though. So the most DC cable you can have is 5 meters. So please bear that in mind. This is the bottom of the inverter. It looks slightly different because you have the battery plus and minus are taken in here. The AC is the same, the MC4 is the same, communications are the same, but these 2 here are where the battery cables enter. And this communication board you've already seen. You can see we've got the RS485 going in here, Ethernet into here, and this bit here is the battery communication, the CAN bus. And that all plugs in together. So what does it look like? Well, we've seen this one here, but basically the meter reads the input, the export. It then communicates to the inverter. The inverter says, right, okay, we're going to discharge, tells the battery to discharge, and away we go. Or it tells the battery, gets the information from here, we're exporting, and then it says, right, we're going to charge from the DC, or so on. It tells you what to do. This is the brains here. This just gives information, but this is the brains. It's 3-phase, so you have 3-phase loads, obviously. Your battery here, again, 5 meters is the maximum distance. PV as well. You must make sure, very important, you must make sure that the L1 CT in relation to the CT is in L1, L2 is on L2, and L3 is on L2. And here is your RS485 communication. And the last bit is the communication to the monitoring. And this can be Wi-Fi, it can be Ethernet, it can be GSM cellular, and all that will communicate to the monitoring portal. Again, it's all free of charge. So just a couple of notes on here. With smart energy, zero export is not supported because smart energy needs about 50 watts. So it can detect that there's actually an export, and then it will come on. So you can actually trick the system by setting it to export at 50 watts. 50 watts is not enough that's going to cause a problem, because what will happen is as soon as it reads at 50 watts, it's then going to go into the smart energy anyway. So the installation, just some information for you. We have different spacings, indoor and outdoor. Indoor, we have a larger spacing, and that's because of the ambient temperature. It says here 20 centimeters if the ambient temperature is higher than 25 degrees. So depending where you're installing the inverter, you might have to move them away slightly. And then you've got airflow here. Do not block airflow behind the DC safety unit. So around here, please make sure you allow the same space as you do to the top of the inverter. So installation steps, we're going to look at them. Maximum cable, I've told you, is 5 meters. We've got the basically the mounting of it. So brackets, drill holes, put the bracket on the wall, tighten it, make sure it's level, and then hang the inverter on the wall. And then you secure the mounting with these nuts and bolts on the side. They actually go into the bracket. The cables themselves, once you've got the inverter on the wall secure, there's also a secure bracket under here at the bottom. Take the cover off, cover comes off, and you can see what's inside. We'll come to what's inside in a minute, don't worry. But basically, we have the RS485 cables, the CAN bus cables, the 48-volt DC, the DC from the roof, and the AC as well. Okay, we can skip this one. Apart from a very important one here is mark the polarity on the DC cables. Make sure when you get your plus cable that you mark plus on both ends. And then also make sure you've installed the dip switches correctly in the battery before. It's a lot easier when the battery's on the floor. As it's being delivered, you can set the dip switches. It makes it a lot easier. So we've got a tunnel basically, which is this bit here. So you pull this tunnel off, you run the cable through the AC cable through the tunnel, and you put the tunnel back on. It just secures it, makes it neater, stops it getting in the way in case it's pinched on the putting the lid in place. Then you put the ferrite cores around it at the top. You terminate the cables as such, and you then put the tunnel back on, as you can see on here. And don't forget to tighten up the gland as well. Now, I'm not sure how many slides we've got, but I don't think we've got too many, and then we'll have a quick break if that's okay. So please bear with me for a bit longer. So DC, they just push in straight away into the bottom. Nothing special there. The dip switches, they're all in the manual, and it's telling you that basically if you're using RS4851, you must turn the left dip switch on, or it says off here, so you must turn it up. Okay. What else we've got on here? Just information about the meter, but we're looking at the meter later on, so I'm not going to dwell on it here. The DC cables, this is a very good tip. The DC cables, you want to put the gland on the end. Sorry, not the gland. You want to put the crimp lug on the end. Then you want to put your heat shrink on there. Okay, about 150 mil of heat shrink. And then when you've done that, it's easier to pass them through a ferrite coil and then through the gland this way rather than trying to pull them up and then trying to crimp them. So we found here that it's a lot easier to do it this way. So you prepare it like here, and then you pass the ends through. That's the easiest way. And then you connect them to the battery here, plus and minus just into a normal screw terminal. You've got some dip switches here. As I said, it's very important to do this. Make sure you check them at least twice. You've got the dip switches and RS485 communication cable here, which then goes on to this one here. So that's the same cable. Okay. Battery to here, and then check your dip switches. Different manufacturers have different position of dip switches. You can see on here, BYD is up on this one, and LG Chem is down on this one. So very careful to pay attention to this. Okay, well, that would be one of the first things that you phone up and support will say, have you checked the position of the dip switches? And then you can say, yes, with confidence, I have checked with them. Or you can say, well, I don't know, I'll best go and check. You can see on here, the lower ones should all be this way. And this is where you connect the cable into here, into this bit here. So this bit is this bit. Right, so configuring and troubleshooting. Basically, you must make sure that you switch off in the correct sequence where it can damage the battery. So switch off the inverter, switch off the power circuit breaker to the battery, and then perform your firmware upgrade. And you know how to do this via setup. You know that one, you know that one, and you know that one. And when it comes to the inverter configuration, this is where you would go in the commissioning. So maintenance, firmware upgrade, load save configuration. So load configuration. Then when you've done that, you then set up your meter. You've then got to put the battery in after you've done the meter. And you just, it looks very complicated on here, but I can assure you it's not. Once you've connected it all together, it automatically populates most of this information. You can see on here all the battery information comes up. All of that populates. As soon as it talks to each other, it will all populate on here. So it's not a question of you having to fill it out. And don't forget, when you finish that, the last bit is to tell it whether you want maximum self-consumption or if you want time of use. Then you need to enable it to charge from the grid as well. Why do we need to charge from the grid? Well, it protects the battery. Say you have no PV for a number of days, your battery is going to slowly discharge. And what you want to do is you can create a threshold here of reserve. So you can set this to whatever value you want. And then you can also tell it to charge up to this value as well. So with time of use, you can actually get it to charge at night on cheap rate electricity and use through the day. There we go. And then the last thing is to do the communication. So you're telling it to Wi-Fi, not connected, and you're telling it to communicate via this. And that's pretty much it. And then you would go to status and you would see it's a little video here, but we can't play that today. But all these videos are available in the Learning Center and also in the Edge Academy. So a couple more slides and then we can stop for a break. So the antenna, yes, the clever ones amongst you have already worked out that, Jason, this isn't going to work very well because the communication board is here and you're asking us to run the antenna cable all the way through here and then go to the top. It's not going to reach. You're absolutely right. So what you can do is you can either put a little bracket, any bracket you want, screw that to the wall and then select this onto here, or you can connect it onto the bottom. You can have it pointing down, but you can make your own bracket. So please don't worry because you can't connect on top here. The monitoring, this is what you'll see. You'll see the dashboard here. You'll see the PV. You'll see the battery. You'll see the home, what the home is using, and you'll see what the grid is doing. So you can see on here that the battery is 100%. We're using so much in the home and exporting the rest to the grid. You can also see on here the discharging. So we have no PV at all. Battery is now discharging and some is coming from the grid. There will be a time where you get still a little bit from the grid, and that's purely depending on how your loads react. If your loads react very, very quickly, like you go in, you turn a kettle on, or you go and turn the oven on, it's going to be a little bit quicker for the grid to react than the battery to react. So don't be alarmed if you see both of these at the same time and it using a small amount. So what should I pay attention to? Well, make sure the dip switches are according to the connected battery. Remember, BYD and LG had a different position on this switch here. Okay, So pay attention to that one. You need to ground the inverter as well on the outside. And obviously, you don't want any mechanical stress or tension on these connections. So make sure you use the channel and make sure you have adequate uh, gaps, basically, length of cable here going into here. You don't want these pulling, okay? And again, don't forget when you connect the battery that it's easier to put the lugs, the heat shrink, and the ferro coil, and then pass them through this way. It's a lot easier to do that this way. And most importantly, polarity. Make sure that you mark both the same ends, because otherwise it could go a bit funny. And the last thing, design rules. The inverter is 5, 7, 8, and 10. String designs are the same as residential inverters. You're still allowed up to 11.25 kilowatt in one string, and the oversizing is 135%, and it's supported in the designer. Okay. Now I think we'll stop here because it's good for my slides. So let's see, it's 10 past 10 here, so it must be 10 past 11 where you are. So let's come back at 20 past 11, if that's okay with everybody. And we'll see you very shortly, a very quick break, and I'll see you at 20 past 11. Right. Okay, everybody. Um, it's 20 past here, so I think we can begin. Okay, so let's begin. I want to start with a poll, just to see if you're all back, basically. And this poll here is: which resources do you use to check SolarEdge design rules? So we've got designer, we've got a data sheet, we've got check with SolarEdge support, or check with your SolarEdge sales rep. Okay, getting some good answers here. Okay, just let it run for a few more seconds. Okay, very good. So it's lovely to see that you are using the designer. It's very important that you use the designer to check everything. Obviously, the data sheet to check if you're not sure particular module and things like that. But yes, you can call your SolarEdge sales rep by all means. You can call with support by all means at all. But the easiest way is to go straight to the designer and to and basically put all the information in there. On the designer, there's three levels. There's a basic, there's a residential, and there's a commercial. The basic one, for any of you who might remember the SolarEdge designer years ago, it was an online, it was a downloadable tool, and you used to have to make sure they had all the updates. And basically, you'd put it in, just all the information. You wouldn't draw anything, but you just put the information in. And the basic is very, very similar to that. You click on basic, and it just says where's the address, what's the angle of the roof, how many arrays has it got, what module you're using, and it does all that. It's very, very good. Okay, so let's move off to surge protection. Now, I spoke to you earlier and I said that we had some surge protection. I think it was one of the first slides I showed you. And we do. The new, when I say new, the SE 25, 27.6, 30, 33.3, and 40 all have DC surge protection. I'll just go down one. DC surge protection as standard on the inverters. Okay, and that is on the left hand side here, and that would be this device here. And it basically plugs in. It's a sacrificial device. It plugs in and it stops any surge currents or surge voltage as such, damaging the inverter. Once it's been used, it will report in to say as an error that it's happened and we need to change it, things like that. Now you can also see on here the um, AC surge protection. This is optional and you can purchase this. So let's just go up one. And this is the AC one, as you can see. This is before, and this is with the AC surge protection added to it. Very simple to install, very, very simple. You just, it comes with a kit, which we'll see later on. Oh, we won't see the kit, unfortunately. Has plastic standoffs and metal things that you then connect to the circuit board at the back, and that's how you connect it. And a little black cable from it, basically connecting to the communication board to show that we have an intact surge protection device for DC or an intact surge protection device for AC. Okay. This one here is the same thing, set up for the inverters. What I'm hoping to show you on here is we've seen the follow detect, we've seen that one. Nope. Maintenance, no, it's the same ones. I was hoping to find the one where it shows you how to set the surge protection device, but that's not on there. So the next one is The energy meter. Why do you need an energy meter? Well, without an energy meter, you cannot measure what is being imported or exported from a property. You need this to then tell the inverter that we can charge or discharge a battery. You need this to also tell the EV inverter to run from the excess PV or to charge from the grid. And you also need it for the smart energy when it notices exportation. Again, remember I said it has to be about 50 watts. When it notices 50 watts of exportation, it then allows the smart energy devices to work. So this is why we need a meter here. And let's go on. Oh, wrong one, sorry. Basically, the position of the meter depends on a couple of things and what you want it to do. If you want it to do export and import, you need to put it as close to the grid. This is where the grid is, obviously, here, and you need to have this here with the CTs facing towards the grid. The CT must face towards the grid as well. If you're using for consumption or production, so production would be in line of the circuit, and that would be before any other loads or any other circuits are taken from it. And if you wanted consumption, you would put the meter here to measure the load. And again, for consumption, the CT would have to face this way towards the load. So, product description. This is the meter you're familiar with, and you can see on here we've got the AC connection on here, and you've got embossed on the back here as well as on the label neutral L1, L2, and L3. Then you've got CT1, CT2, CT3, and 3 lights, and then your GAB connections. You've also got some terminations on here which are on the side, which we'll see in a few slides. This is what you get in the box. You get the meter, you get the dim rail mounting kit, you get the screws, and you get the installation guide. So let's get this slide up. Here we go. So in your electrical cabinet or in your enclosure or wherever you wish to have this, if you were doing production, okay, it would have to be in line before any of the loads before the grid, and the CT would be here, okay, which it is, and you would basically measure what the inverter is producing. If you want for export and import, then the CT is near the grid. And if you want consumption, you then put it near the loads. If you use the meter for consumption on the dashboard, this is the value you'll get. You'll get this consumption value here. You won't be able to get individual values, unfortunately, only the group value. It uses the RS485 at the moment. But our new meter will be using our own communication, a wireless communication, and we won't need to hardwire. But the meter at the moment is hardwired with RS485. If you have multiple inverters, don't worry, because remember on the communication board I showed you, it had RS485 and RS485. This allows you to use one bus for leader and followers and the other bus for meters. You can't have them on the same bus. They must be on separate buses. You can also use the commercial gateway, which I showed you. Again, this has two RS485s, one for leader and follower, and the other one for meters. You can also use this SunSpec protocol for this as well. It doesn't have to be the SolarEdge meter, but this is one we would prefer you to use. Meter interfaces, so let's have a little bit look at it. As you can see, we've got L1, L2, and L3. If you do get them in the wrong order, it will give you the wrong information. Again, L1, L2, and L3, if you get the wrong order, you will get the wrong information. You can use this for single phase and for three phase as well. So don't worry about that. Just make sure you use L1 and M3. We've got the three lights on here. They're slightly different to what the lights you may remember on the earlier meter. So the number one is green. It means normal operation, blinking on and off. That's perfectly fine. That's perfect. Number two, yellow, which it is, and it's for RS485 communication. That means that you're getting communication between the inverter. And number three, this one here, is energy management. A blink indicates the total energy is measured. So it's actually measuring. So you can see on here that it's measuring the CT. So that's good. Now, I did say there were dip switches on the side. This is important. What we didn't look at in the setup menu, but we will cover here, is how to address the meter with the correct ID. So you can see on here, we've got ID, this bit here, we've got 1, 2, and 3, and 1 and 3 are down, but 2 is up. And that relates to the information that you would put in on the setup for the meter ID as 2. So this is saying I'm number 2, and then you need to put number 2 in, or this one won't connect. Now, bear in mind, you can also have it as 1 or you can have it as 3, whatever you wish, but you must have the correct number in there. These are the termination switches. Again, they must be terminated, not terminated. So factory default are up and you must put them down. Okay, so these are up and factory default is up. So as they are basically when they come out the factory, you, you shouldn't need to do anything. Depending on the length of run, how long the cable is between the inverter and here, it's possible that you will need to put the end of line resistor down. But generally, leave it as it is. It shouldn't be a problem. And installing the meter, just normal cable. You don't need a big fuse as 20 amp. That's quite big, to be honest. Possibly maybe 6 amp is what you would need. And RS485 cable twisted pair. You can see on here we've got the blue and the white with blue. So that would be our twisted pair, the white with blue and the blue, not the blue and orange. That's not a twisted pair. It's the blue one and the white with blue is a twisted pair, or the orange and white with orange is a twisted pair. So mounting the meter, installing the CT. It's very important that the CT is installed in the right place and connected correctly, as well as pushed together. It must click into place, and then wiring the meter. So this is what we're going to look at. So here's the DIN rail mountings. You don't have to use the DIN rail mountings if you wish, but they are available. You could screw straight through here onto the backing. These are the mounting holes here. Oh, stop moving. There we go. Let's go back one. I think we skipped. Sorry. A bit of a delay with my mouse and keyboard now. Giving all the secrets away. Don't look, shut your eyes. I'll tell you when to look. All right, okay. So 151, yes, did that one. 152. So this is a CT. On it, you can see, there we go, it's popped up now. On it, you can see we've got here 0.333 volts AC. It's very important that you understand that SolarEdge meters only work on 0.333 volts. We don't do ratio, we don't work on any other voltage, it's only this. You can buy CTs. There's lots of CTs available for this voltage. And should you wish to have larger cables with CTs around them, you can use a Rogalski coil. And again, you can get those at 0.333 volts as well. It says on here what the rating is, 200 amp. And we've also got this arrow you see here with the pointing to source. So remember, if we're import and export, that needs to face to the grid. If we're doing consumption, then this would point to the load that you want to measure the consumption for. Okay. Then placing of it, as we said, arrow pointing towards the grid, making sure that we've got the correct CT, so CT1 on phase one, and also that phase one is wired to the phase one as well. If you get those phases incorrect, it will cause some misinformation on the dashboard. And then we've got the RS485 cable, which is a twisted pair with B and A, B being the minus, A being the plus, and G being the ground. They don't need to be huge wire, just Cat5, Cat6 or RS485 cable can be used for these. With Cat5 and Cat6, you'll get a maximum of 100 meters distance. With RS485 cable, you will get a kilometer. Um, it's self-explanatory, I think, here that you've got the white as in this one and the black within this one. So hopefully we won't get confused. BAG cables, this is on the communication board I first showed you with two communications here, so 1 and 2. And remember the dip switch is here. So you would need to switch on if you were using this one here. So switch it on. And then you've got your blue and white here, and then you've got your G. So they are your B and G communications. Configuration. So this is a bit where it can get a bit tricky. All the communication and the meters and everything, pairing, country, languages, all done from the commissioning screen. So you'll see the commissioning screen here. You then go down to site communication. Remember, monitoring communication is for getting to the internet, and this is for everything on site. So you click on here, you've got two choices, RS451 or RS452. You can use either, and depending which one you've wired into is the one that you would select. So in this occasion, we've used RS451. We then go to protocol, and then we get the options here. We've got SolarEdge, a multi-device. We've got SunSpec. Remember I said you could use SunSpec communication? So that's available here. So you want to choose Modbus multi-device. The reason you want to choose multi-device is it allows you to connect a battery and a meter together. So once we've got into here, we're in multi-device, we've got add Modbus device. So there's your meter and there's your battery. You may remember on the one I showed you with the residential storage inverter that we skipped the meter installation because we've already put the battery, already put that in. We're just going to do the battery. So select meter, pops up, and you've got meter one. Then you've got meter function, and you've got all the other information on here. Now, here's the important bit. You see on here, device ID 2. Because you're choosing meter 1, it's automatically going to put a 1 in here. So you need to change that to a 2. Do you remember we had the dip switches on the meter where we had meter 1 and 3 were off and meter 2, dip switch 2 was on? So meter 1 would automatically put 1 in here. You change that for a 2. The CT rating automatically appears. Then you've just got to choose your function. So do you want it to do import export? Do you want it to do consumption? Do you want it to do site production, external production? Whatever choice you want. This is the most common one. Even if you're not doing limitation by export, you still choose this one, and it measures the in and the out. Just an explanation of what they all are. Export and import. You are getting a copy of these slides, so please don't worry. You will get all the slides. Unfortunately, I haven't translated them, but you will be able to get the slides from me. And then we've got the, just to show you again, device ID 2. You can see it's the number 2 on here, even though it's meter 1, we've changed that. The CT rating goes to 100. It automatically populates itself as long as everything is right. If you can't select the CT rating, no matter what you do, it's because you either got a cable loose or the CT is not clipped or clamped around the cable correctly. And this will never populate unless that's correct. So if you've done the CT correct, you've done the cabling correct, this will automatically appear. Once you've done that, you can then check in the status screen, which again is in the commissioning screen here. So go to status. You can see on here RS4851 Modbus 1 of 1. That tells you you've got 1 meter connected or one device connected. You can see you've got nothing or none in RS4852. And then if we look at this one here, we can see RS4851 Modbus ID 2, which is what we set it to. It says OK. It's telling us what the power is, what the energy is, the import meter. So that was the export meter, the import meter. We've got ID2, OK, and so on. So this allows you in the status screen to see, and these values will change. If you're standing in front of the inverter and the inverter is producing, or the property is demanding stuff from the grid, these values will change. So you'll be able to see it working in real time. It will be real time. Problems. What are you going to come across? The first one is that you're going to see NC, so not connected. And that will be either a cable issue, it will be the ID set to 1 instead of 2, or it will be the CT's not clamped round correctly, and it's not allowing you to record 100 amps or 200 amps or whatever it should be. So what should you do? Check the ID dip switches. Make sure you've got 1 and 3 down and 2 up. Then check the dip switches on the setup. Make sure you put it as number 2. Then make sure you've configured it correctly, that you've got it set for import, export, production, or consumption. Check the wiring to the inverter, the gateway, to make sure that you do have the BAG and you have got the right color in B, the right color in A, and the right color in G. You could look for water damage or sealing problems, but I doubt that will be one of the most common ones. That's a very, very rare one, especially if it's inside. It's not really going to suffer from water damage as such. And then the last one, to check that L1 has a voltage on it. Why L1? Because L1 is the connection that the meter gets the power from. So if you have lost a phase, if you've lost L1, then there's a good possibility that the meter won't work. Problem number 2, the energy value is not advancing. So this is the energy value here. You want to check the ID, you want to check the COM. We've got errors here with communication, and we've got value here. And it says if there's wiring loose connections, the inverter or meter, just to check that. Check that the CT black and white cables are correctly installed in the right place. And check that L1 and L2 cable passes through the CT in the correct direction. So the CTs are both facing to the grid. And again, check for any water damage or sealing problems. Okay, so we've looked at batteries as storage, we've looked at the meter, and now we're going to look at the smart energy products. So these are all ways that you can harness the excess PV. So you can harness the excess PV by using a battery, or you can harness it by using the smart energy. This is the poor person's battery, basically. It allows you to divert the electricity to heat pumps, to hot water devices, to any device you want. It just allows you to divert the excess energy rather than export it to the grid. You can use it, you can harness it. And what we've got on here is the concepts, operational, installing, the Zigbee network. This is how it communicates at the moment. Temperature sensors, LEDs, the setup, how to set it on the setup. Remember, all the devices now use setup. And then what it will look like on the monitoring platform, and some use cases. So where to use it. So first of all, let's go on to the smart energy. I am keeping a conscious look at the time, so please don't worry. Smart energy devices. What it does is it shifts. So this is your consumption. Okay, this is what you're using during the day. This gray bit here that goes to brown. This is what you're using. And this is all the excess energy that you're generating during the day. And instead of losing this or exporting to the grid, what we want to do is try and save this in some way to stop using at nighttime. So what we do is we use consumption shifts. So we use a hot water device that basically heats your hot water. So this sends it directly to your hot water system. And that stops you from coming home at night, turning on the immersion to use the hot water at night. So it allows you to basically consumption shift is the word that we use. So all the excess energy, you can see this is what you were using was a dark brown, and then the pink is everything that you are making, and we've managed to harness it by using the other stuff in the middle, the light brown. So we've just taken this excess energy and put it to a good use. We can do that in different ways. Well, we will do if my slides change. There we go. I think we've gone a little bit too far again. Yes. So these can happen in different ways. The smart energy hot water unit. This allows you to heat up water using an element, so resistive load. So this is the only one that works on a resistive load. These are all like 13 amps. That's a smart socket. Don't worry about the 3 pins. You'll be able to get them in your socket arrangement or plug and socket arrangement. This has a meter on it as well, so it tells you how much energy that's using. The smart energy switch has a meter on it as well, tells you how much it's using, and so does the smart energy hot water. The smart energy relay is used to control heat pumps. Two relay settings in it, so you can control other devices, much larger devices. You can use the smart energy relay to switch a contactor. You can then switch whatever load you wish. Um, the smart energy switch, as such, is a hardwired device. This is a plug-in device. This is a hardwired device. Right, my internet is a bit slow now. I'm just waiting for it to move. There we go. So we've got smart energy socket, so hot water socket, switch and relay. These are suitable for heat pumps as such, and these can be used for anything: heaters, garden lighting, fans, more anything you want, towel rails, anything you wish. You can set a schedule, smart save, or manual. You can turn them on and off. You can have them working on excess PV, or you can have a schedule for them. And basically, you have the meter, you have the inverter, you have the PV. With the optimizers, you can also have battery as well. You can also have EV. And these devices work in tandem. And once the battery is full, then you can get them to prioritize between this, or you can prioritize between this. And then when they're done, the battery can then charge. So you can do pretty much anything you want with it. Specifications, the smart hot water is 3 kilowatts. All the others are 3 kilowatts as well. They're all 13 amps, but the relay doesn't really matter because that can switch any load you want as a contactor. It has a boost mode as well, so you can set it to heat up for 1 hour just by pressing moving the switch. You can get it to heat up for an hour, or it will work off excess PV or a schedule. It also has an energy meter, as I said, and you'll be able to record what your value you're using. And this is resistive, so this will be from 50 watt up to 3 kilowatts, where the others will be 0 to 3 kilowatts. These will be any value in between. As said here, you can use them for anything. We're the next range, which is coming out, is also doing air conditioning. We're doing temperatures. We're doing lots of other devices, so you can control other devices as well. That will be out by the end of the year. So the new version of this will be out by the end of the year. Relay is just a tool to turn on and off. As we said, it can do heat pumps, it can do air conditioning, all kinds of things. So operational modes, off, auto and on. So you've got schedule or smart save, so you can use excess energy. So as soon as it detects any excess energy, it will then bring these devices on. Um, what have we got on here? Basically, you can have it. So you want your hot water by 6 o'clock. You put it to excess energy, and then come 4 o'clock, if the hot water isn't as hot as what it should be, if this has not been on long enough to heat the hot water, it will automatically come on. So even if there's not enough excess energy during the day, it will automatically come on to heat your hot water. Go. And just repeating that the three modes are excess PV, which is smart save, you've got schedule, and you've got on and off. This is what it will look like on your app. The little tab in the middle here, that is the smart energy device. So this is off your mobile phone. The previous one was off the monitoring. You've got the battery here, you've got the home, you've got the grid, and you've got the PV. Then you've got your smart tab, and then you've got your layout here, the modules. So this is the smart device, as I said. And then once you click on that, you can then pop down. You can give them images, whatever you wish. You can actually give them names of whatever you wish. And you can see on here, this is auto and saver. This is off. This is schedule, saver, and auto. And the same with this one is saver and then schedule and auto as well. See the calendar icon below. Um, uh, just repeating again, you can come onto here anytime you want and you can change these. You can do it remotely. You don't have to be at home. You don't have to be close to the inverter. You can do this remotely anywhere in the world, basically. As long as you have internet, you can do this. Um, you can turn it on and off. You can set it for timer. You could even have a kettle plugged into here. And if you know how long it's going to take you to come home, you could be clever enough to get the kettle to boil. So as soon as you walk in the door, you've got a nice cup of nice boiling water there for a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. You can then set it for on with a limit. So you can give it no limit, so it can be on all the time. You can set it to be on for 30 minutes, or you can custom. So it's not the fact of it's either on off. You've still got flexibility. You can set it for 30 minutes, or you can put it on custom. You can do anything you want. It will repeat things. You can set the schedule quite simply by selecting the start time, the end time, enable smart save. So you click yes, and then these are the days of the week you want, and you press apply. Very, very, very simple. Not like setting a video recorder for us old people who, when video recorders first came out. You don't need a teenager to do this. You can do it yourself. And smart save is shown in green when it's on. So any excess energy will go to these as well as the schedule. So installing the smart hot water unit, just spend a bit of time on this because it's slightly different. You've got the immersion cable out and AC going in. So this is where the AC would come in. This is when it would go out. It's very important you do get the in and out correct. These are the cables, communication cables in here, LED indicator, and the on-off P switch as well. So basically, you mount it, connect it to the AC, connect it to the immersion cable. You then put the antenna in, then you set up the communication, the Zigbee communication, and configure. It's pretty much as easy as plug and play as we can get it, but we are working on improving all the time. You do have some spacings on here that you must adhere to, just for um, heat as such. It pops on, and then you put the two screws in as well. And inside, this is important as well. The AC comes in from this side, and you must wrap it around the ferrite coil twice. The AC comes out, you must wrap it around twice, and then goes out to the immersion. So it's very important you do that with the ferrite coils. What have we got on here? Just standard cable that you would use for immersion. Obviously, it's going to be close to the immersion. It can get hot. This is showing you wrapping around the cable. This is the communication. So this is the gland that you would poke through, and then you would terminate this onto the communication board for the antenna. Just at the top here. And then don't forget to connect the antenna to the side of the inverter. And this is what it looks like on the way in. Um, Normal communication board, very similar to what we have. Here is the antenna connection. These are the going to the hot water cylinder element, and this is coming in from the AC coming in. You turn it on, obviously, by using the switch into the on position. And if you move it to the P, it will allow you to have a boost as well. So you've got boost mode is to hold it for more than 5 seconds, and association is for just a couple of seconds. So basically just to get it to activate. Once you've activated it on here, you then go to the inverter and then you search for it and it will add. So how to build a network, let's have a quick look. Different terminology here. We've got Zigbee, we've got home automation protocol, we've got smart energy, all these different names going on, but they're all the same thing. This is a industry recognized name, home automation protocol. Basically, you can have up to 10 devices. And what it will do is you will be able to have all these devices, different names, different control, and prioritize between them all. So each have their own association button, so you can get them to join as such. You still need a meter, as I said. And once you've installed that, then it will measure what your import and export is, and then be able to control what you should be doing with your smart energy, excess PV, and things like that. You can also put it with one inverter with a display, or put it with a setup inverter. Both of them will work fine. Um, okay, this is the plug-in on the inverter now. So now we're at the inverter. We've then put the smart energy Zigbee communication plug-in here. We've then connected the antenna cable and we've routed that outside. So now we have this plug-in here on the inverter. We also have the plug-in on the hot water smart energy device. And then we're ready to basically communicate to each other. And this is done by basically doing the pairing for, it shouldn't say 5 seconds there, it should be less than 5 seconds and it will activate it. Okay, now I've just noticed the time. We've got a minute left. I just want to quickly show you how to do this and then I will stop. Communication. So everything is done in the setup again. Go to communication, go to Zigbee. You click on here, home automation, then home automation again. All this is in the manual, don't worry. When you've done that, you then got device manager, add devices. And this is basically what it does. You then add your devices and it's telling you how many devices. Once you've got your 3 devices or 5 devices, you can press it to stop. You don't have to wait it for run its course. You can then set each particular device with the properties of their load rating, the minimum time, the export threshold, things like that. You can set it to, so this hot water device will be 3 kilowatt, or we do have a 4.8 kilowatt one as well for Europe. So we do have two available. And then the last thing I want to show you is the temperature sensor. Basically, we have a temperature sensor in here, PT100. Any PT100 sensor you'll be able to use. You simply configure it into the inverter. Once it's configured into the inverter, you'll be able to then register your hot water as such. It's only for information purposes at the moment. It doesn't do any force it to come on for like a Legionnaires cycle or something yet, but it will do. We are getting very close to that. I just want to show you a couple of pictures here of how it would connect. You have two cables, the same, two blues and a red, and these are all done on the inverter very simply in here. So this is the bit on here. You simply put the two colors that are there together in this terminal, into 2 and the 3, and then that's it. Very simple. Um, you don't need to remove any of the jumpers. So these are the tiny little bits here. You don't need to remove any of those with a PT100. So please make sure you're using a PT100. And that is pretty much it for me. I've got one more poll to do, which I will do now. And that is this one here. I'm going to press launch and see if you could answer the question very quickly. And I'll be pleased to inform you of something special. So the first question is, which of the following is SolarEdge active in? Multiple choice. And it says solar PV, battery manufacturer, EV drivetrain and management. You're absolutely right if you've chosen solar PV. You're absolutely right if you've chosen battery manufacturer. And you're absolutely right if you've chosen EV drivetrain and management, because SolarEdge is involved in all of these. Okay, we make our own batteries, as you know. We are also we are in the process of supplying EV drivetrains to Fiat for their van. Um, we are making the energy management systems for that as well. So yeah, we're doing that. We've also got our own manufacturing line that makes automated machinery, and we actually make our own machine which makes our optimizers. So yeah, it's pretty amazing. Um, so that's it. Thank you. You will get a copy of the slides. We did miss quite a bit. Nothing that it's harmful or not to have missed, but you will get that. And I'd just like to say thank you for your attention and for staying with me for 2 hours. And now we're on to the last slide, which is questions and anything like that. And feel free to contact me either via Solarity or via my email if you've got it. And that's it, really. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jason. As always, we have multiple questions after your webinar. So, if you don't
Okay,
mind, I will take a couple of minutes of your time with the
of
question
course.
in this. So, the first question is actually if the system will work during the blackout. I believe this question is related to the storage inverter and the battery system.
Okay, so we will release this year or very early next year our own backup device, which will be retrofittable to SolarEdge inverters and to storage inverters. And that will be available in 3-phase and single phase. So by the end of this year or the early next year, we're hoping to have a backup device, our own battery for single phase and for 3-phase, and to have a smart EV charger. When I mean by smart EV charger, a charger that's on its own. doesn't require the inverter. So we'll have a backup, we'll have the battery, we've got the inverter, we've got the optimizer, we'll have the new range of smart EV devices, smart energy devices, and we will have the smart EV chargers. So everything by the end of this year or hopefully early next year. So we'll have every box ticked.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, I believe it's related to the slide where the system graph was shown with the smart meter. So, question is actually regarding this particular device. So, do we need to use smart meter if the system's purpose is export to the grid solely? In other words, feed-in tariff. However,
Um,
just short remark from my side, if
yes.
the main purpose is the export to the grid, probably we do not need batteries then at all, right?
Yes, so if you just want to export to the grid, the meter serves a purpose by showing you what you're exporting to the grid. It shows you what you're consuming, things like that. And the meter is a great tool for then later on saying, oh, I actually want to add a battery. What size battery do I need? Or what smart energy devices could I use? But if your sole purpose is just to export to the grid, then no, you do not need to install the meter, no.
Okay, perfect. Third question is if additional fuses are actually needed between the inverter and battery, or are they installed internally into the inverter and battery?
So the battery I've shown you today, the three-phase residential and the single-phase residential that we do not need to install fuses unless you're installing two batteries together. So if you're installing two batteries together, then yes, you would need to put a fuse connection unit in. And I believe the LG battery also sell a fuse connection unit, an LG fuse connection unit.
Okay, thank you, Jason. The next question is if we can add hybrid inverter to already existing grid installation. I believe with grid setup inverter.
Yes, so you can absolutely. You can have the AC coupled storage if you wish, or you can just add the normal inverter. You can use the meter as well, should you have an issue with export, to control the export of the other inverter and our inverter. So yes, it's possible.
Okay. Next question is, please tell us what is the estimated charge discharge efficiency of a 48-volt battery? However, I'm not sure if it's really question regarding SolarEdge equipment, but anyway, maybe you can help.
Okay, so DC coupled charging is a lot more efficient than AC coupled charging. As you can see from the design, we use DC coupled for this, so it's going to be more efficient. So it's going to have a higher efficiency than an AC coupled. But depending on which type of battery you would use, that would also affect the efficiency. So I can't really comment on that because I haven't got the data sheet available. But the way we've done it is DC coupled is the more efficient way anyway to start with.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and the last question for today is how about support for high voltage batteries, especially BAD high HVM? Oh,
Okay, so the single phase we use the 40, sorry, three phase residential we use the 48 volt, but single phase residential storage we use 400 volt. Now, our new battery coming out, that will be 400 volt as well. So we will be supporting our own product, I should say, the 400 volt battery. You can still use the LG 400, and we will also be supporting the new LG 10 and the LG 16 kilowatt battery as well, 16H.
okay, thank you for your answer, Jason. Actually, that's all.
Okay, no problem. I hope you've enjoyed it. Um, and please forward me any questions or anything afterwards, and I'll do my best to answer them for you.